Shang here, and get ready for a roundtable you will not forget. We're here today with two incredible outliers who've gone and created success despite the odds, and they've continuously found ways to climb the mountains that are in front of them while recreating and creating what most other people would say wouldn't be possible. I'm excited for the conversation right now. We have Nuri, Otus, Gregg. Thank you both for making the time for making the time to be here. It's an absolute pleasure to be in conversation with you. Nice. So where I
Great to
wanted
be
to start
here.
off here is to give outliers an opportunity to get to know you. Would you mind sharing? I'll start with you, Rob, and then we'll come to you, Neri. Would you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're currently playing?
Yeah, somebody actually gave this to me, and it was the nicest compliment that I've ever heard. And I stick that with me. And they say, I don't solve problems, I turn problems into greatness. And the simplified version of that is I'm not the kind of person that's going to come into a basement, see a leaky pipe, and put duct tape over it. I'm going to figure out why it leaked in the first place and see if we can re-engineer that system. And while it was the nicest thing that was ever been said, it's also an incredible burden to wear. And we can get into it, a lot of my background, and it's taken some really unconventional paths that led to here. But if I had to pick a common theme, it's find out what are problems that aren't being solved and how can I personally help turn those to greatness.
I appreciate hearing that when you said that, like turn it into greatness. There's something in there that helps me also understand the level in which you choose to get things done. Like there's something to solve, and there's another thing about like leveling up the game as it goes on. And so as we have our conversation here, Rob, help us continue to have this conversation and one at the level of greatness. You good with that? All
Absolutely.
right. Awesome, awesome. Nuri, let's let outliers get to know you. Do you mind letting us know more about you and the game you're currently playing?
Sure. I'm not going to say I consider it a game. It's an adventure, but that's just semantics. Uh, like what Rob said, I try to figure out problems and then figure out solutions to the problems. And uh, there's a guy, Jason something or other. He runs an organization called SASTR, SAASTR, and it's SaaS Traction is what it's short for, I think. Anyhow, he said something years ago that in an event that I attended that really spoke to me. That the greatest opportunities that exist between two existing columns. So you've got a vertical that does one thing, and you've got a vertical next to it that does something similar. But how do you bridge the gap between these two large opportunities? And that's where I focus. The company that I built for the past 12 years is in the compliance space and is messaging. It took us 7 years of experiments to figure out how to get through the walls of iMessage so that we could archive our iMessage for compliance purposes for federal organizations. And everybody told me it'll never happen. You'll never figure it out. And we did. And now that I left the company 3 years ago because it was time for me to move on. But it was a great learning experience. The greatest to me, the greatest thing I was ever taught was very simple, which was that look at what the kids are doing, because what the 12 and 14-year-olds are doing today are what the adults are going to be doing by the time those kids are 18.
Mm, mm. I love this year. We're already starting out here with with greatness, like playing into the room, as well as like wisdom being shown out here. And I like this element of look at what the kids are doing, which is the element of like staying open, like seeing where trends are going and beyond. And so as we have this conversation, I get really curious. Like I want to start off by exploring how each of you show up as an outlier yourself, right? Rob, like we got a chance to hear a little bit about like what Nuri was up to recently. Like can you mind letting outliers know like what are you doing right now? Like what's your big outlier quest that you're on right now? And then Nuri, if you want afterwards, if you want to add anything else to what you've said, like let's make sure we have that in. But let us know more about you and what you're doing out in the world.
Yeah, so we make the slowest shoe in the world. It's one that's designed more like a recovery mat. And really, it started. I used to work 16-hour days on concrete, and my knees, back, and joints were getting absolutely crushed. I had to wear dress shoes at the time as part of the uniform, and I just could not find a shoe that was designed to be stood on. And I ended up putting this image online. 250,000 hits later, this local Italian craftsman reached out. We got together and he said he could make me the shoe. Well, it was going to cost about $1,800, and that was well above my ramen budget for the year. because that was still minimum wage work at the time. And so what I ended up doing was volunteering around a shoe shop and learn how shoes are made over the next 4 months. Made a pair of shoes, called it a day, had no intention of building a footwear business around it. A lot of life happened in between, but this really interesting opportunity came up right at the start of the pandemic. And nurses in particular came to my attention in a very personal way. And they're going through 16-hour days on their feet, and just not a single one could get through it without feeling like they were getting crushed. And we looked into that, and they've got the traditional clog styles that we were talking about before the podcast was recording. But the athletic shoes, surprisingly, were still not getting the job done. And when we looked into it, it's because they're designed to store energy and put it up. They're designed for performance, for running, for hiking, for climbing, to run faster, jump higher, but they're not to be designed to be stood on. And so what we understood is that not only nurses, but half the world's population stands for a living, and shoes fundamentally have not been built for that. In fact, shoes are not really built for health. And we looked at it. It's kind of like the TSA. It's this evil that everybody accepts to go to the airport, and you plan around it. Well, shoes have kind of been thought of in the same way up until this point. It's just this necessary evil. My feet are going to kill me because I work on my feet for a living. Well, I thought that'd be a really interesting challenge to see if we can solve. And so, a lot of research, a lot of years in development later, we developed this shoe that takes impact and dissipates it. It's called Stand. It's a standing shoe. And what started for nurses it's now expanded to bartenders, waiters, chefs, professional athletes, parents, people that are on their feet trying to feel a little bit more comfortable. And it's really set us on this really interesting quest of for all the people that stand for a living, usually if you like a thing that you love on your feet, at some point your feet are going to stop loving you back. And it's this fun challenge to see if we can help change that dynamic and put a little bit more spring in your step, so to speak, but just get to enjoy life. I don't think it's fair that if somebody's working a job they love on their feet, that at the end of the day, if they're fortunate enough to have a family, usually they're not jumping to go, play in the backyard or be a functioning part of the family. They're trying to find the couch or they're trying to lay down. And so I thought that'd be a wonderful mission for us to take on is can we change fundamentally the way that people who work for a living on their feet think about the rest of the hours outside of the 9 to 5 or whatever those hours may be that they work?
I'm feeling you on this one here, Rob. Thank you for this. Like, I'm excited to see how that like started to evolve for you as time goes on. But it's cool. It's cool to hear. What's the name of the business?
It's called Stand Shoes. We're standshoes.com.
All right, awesome. I want to make sure that outliers, like we're an active group of people. Like we're not just listening here. We are we actually come in here. So if this is for you, or someone who this is for, like make sure you share it out with them. All right, we're gonna be spending so many time going in different directions in our conversation. I want to make sure that that we got to be a stand for them. Nuri, like
Well, now I don't have to say it online. Um, your objective is the biggest bohag I have seen or heard in a long time. You definitely shooting for the stars. I'm impressed, and frankly, I'm going to watch from the sidelines, but be rooting for you the whole way.
I appreciate it.
That's awesome. And Neri, let me make sure. Sorry, I disappeared there for a second. But is there anything else that like you've given us a glimpse of like what you exited about 3 years ago? Is there anything that you want to add into the mix about what you're doing right now?
Yes, but it's I'm at a point where I can't talk about it significantly yet.
Yep.
I left with the intention of becoming a decent golfer and playing on the senior PGA tour, haha. And about 3 weeks into it, I realized that that wasn't possible. And what I mean by wasn't possible, it was not working. If I did that, it was going to just, I was going to end up weighing 300 pounds and spending the afternoons in the bars by the golf club. And that's just not the life I wanted. Yeah. So I went back to work. And frankly, since we started, we've just pivoted for a third time. Each time it's been something really interesting and big, but the limitations of technology and the limitations of the regulations that involve these things, we're not going to make it possible for us to build what we wanted to build. So now we've changed for a third time. Our plan something for a third time, and frankly, this one is the biggest yet that I'm excited about. I'll
Wow.
tell you this: it's called Duo, and it's something that 500 million people use daily.
I'm intrigued and I'm excited for you here, right? So we'll also be reading there. Now, as I'm listening to both of you, you both have taken on like challenges that feel like you've taken on things that people like feel like either it should be done or like it like, but maybe it can't be done. Like even Rob, as you described this here, you're like the amount of work, research, so on and so forth to be able to create these shoes here, and fill this need is astronomical. So why don't you talk to me about here, like how y'all continue to, I'm going to say like stay with it when the rest of the
Hmm.
world is saying no, or
Hmm.
when it hasn't been done before. How do you actually keep yourself in the game on this one? Either of you want to take me up on that one?
Yeah, so I think two things. One to clarify is sometimes when people are saying no, they might be right. So just because people say no doesn't mean it's a quest that you should go down. That being said, you're crazy until you're not. And so for me personally, I was very fortunate to get to work at some incredible companies, build with some incredible teams. And the one prior to this, we took from startup to 5 billion in sales, with it be in 4 years. Honestly, a lot of luck. I think that we hit the right place, the right time, was something that was needed in the market. And so I can't discount how much luck and timing went into the equation there. But what I realized in my path is I was building companies for other individuals, and I never got to share in the upside, but also I never got to influence as heavily where I thought some really amazing opportunities were. And when I looked at what is a company and what are the teams, it's just people. And I think that we're born with the same capabilities as any other human being. There's units that people use to measure intelligence or capabilities, and I don't know that those are necessarily the correct measurements for it, because you can study something and write something down on a page, and keep in mind, I was a straight A student, so I did very well at that too. But I don't think that that's a measure of intelligence. And I think really what it is just having curiosity and the perseverance to pursue. Both of those things are something that I personally am excited about. And so I just thought, why not me? I built these for so many individuals, and I look at their background and how they got there, and I go, we're very different people, but I think that I could probably do this myself. And honestly, what I realized is that if you inserted me into a company, I was always going to figure out a way to make ends meet. That's my safety net, is I can always go take a desk job. That will always be there. What will not be there is the ability to create something while I've got a lot of life left, hopefully, knock wood. And so I realized that no matter what, I cannot fail, because a Starbucks will be around the corner that I can go work at. There's always trash that needs to be picked up. There will always be a way to make ends meet. Me into this was figuring out what impact that I'm going to make. And a lot of the jobs that I work, they're really fun. I got to work with some now household names and household brands. And I kind of thought really deeply, what is the impact that I'm leaving on the world? And through the work that I was doing, maybe it helped some companies and missions and individuals, but it didn't really seem like it was making that big of a dent, to be honest. And I just wanted to figure out what that was, and how that presented itself was just from listening. There's a classic poem about the wise old owl. You can go look it up. It's very, very short. And the principle behind it is, if you're talking a lot, you don't listen. And when you listen, you learn. And so, how I came up with this company was just by listening. Spent 18 months as a healthcare volunteer and just listened to the challenges and problems they were having. And what's really key in that, I overheard this at a bar. This couple was arguing with each other, and it was one of the most poignant things that I've heard. This one individual responded to their partner. They said, "You're not listening to me to learn right now. You're listening to respond." And I think that that mode is where a lot of people get stuck in, is they hear someone speaking and they're just waiting for their talking point at that moment where they can jump in, rather than just sitting to understand. And I'm sure growing up, I was guilty of that too. And as soon as I heard that, it really changed the way that I showed up. And instead of going, okay, you're speaking and there's my injection point and I can come in here, and really just sit back, and it allowed me to see the world a little bit more unbiased, a lot more open view. And in doing that, I really heard and understood and just captured data. Data is free. I think the value of a survey and talking to people is vastly overlooked, especially in this day and age. There's so many tools that you can build and research you can do, but just human connection and sitting and talking and listening. And that's where the opportunity presented itself. I didn't set out to build something. I set out to find out what is a problem that persists and how large is that. And so by listening and by realizing that, hey, I think that I've got the same stuff that any of these other folks do too, I'm going to take that risk. So a combination of taking the risk, being curious, and just listening to what problems existed, applying those together is what set me on that path. And then the last piece is just perseverance. Challenges come up. A lot of times things are not going well. And I think really the biggest difference is people that just keep going, take that extra step, and you'd be surprised just by surviving how much you learn, how much you grow. And it might not be this wonderful hockey stick trajectory that you see in here. It's more like one of these kind of things. But just by continuing to go, surviving another day, there's an incredible amount of value in that. And that's what's led to our business evolving towards that today.
I hear you there, Rob. Thank you so much for that. Like, I'm letting that one wash over here. At Outliers, we practice what we hear, right? So we're not just like absorbent. We're here to be in practice of it. So, Rob, as you said this year, like listening with the point to learn rather than the point to rather than the point to respond. I actually found myself literally trying to write that down. As you said that, I'm like, I'm gonna come back to that. I'm like, wait. Like it's in this moment right here. Like is this like how am I being? Am I allowing myself to be present with what's here and listen to what's going on, or am I actually going to try and like be in the space? So thank you for that, Rob. You actually did help me like cycle myself into this moment here in Outliers. I'm going to invite you. It's a little bit like it's a little interesting. Okay, this is gonna be my invitation to Outliers. It's gonna be counterintuitive, but most people listen or watch these things in order to learn, and they have it kind of in the passive. I'm going to now ask you to listen with the opposite side. So rather than listening to learn, which is how you might do normally on a podcast, what if you listen to act? What if you listen to respond? You can come and make a comment in here, think about something that you're doing out in the world and apply it. But like in this case here, don't sit back passively. Like see what you can do to put it out into the world. All right, we'll see how we'll play with that, Rob. But this like I'm like, does that all work in this every situation? I'm like, right now people might be listening to learn. So let's see what if we flip that a little bit. All right,
I like
thanks.
it.
Yeah, yeah. Nuri, curious for you, like either anything that like appears what's coming up for you, either on the initial question around like how you continue to navigate when the world is saying no, or anything that Rob came up here. I'm just really curious about like what's flowing through for you right now.
Going back to what you said, there was something that my father taught us as kids that I've probably taught to friends and every child that I coached growing up, Pop Warner and Little League and soccer and basketball and everything else. And that was a wise man once said nothing, right? It is one of the most powerful things that a person can learn because sometimes the best thing you can do is shut up and listen and be present, as you've mentioned many times. Uh, Listening is a skill that few have. As you said, they hear what you're saying, but they don't listen to what you're saying. And there's a very, very fine line between the two in reality because people don't realize which one they're doing until it's too late, especially if it hasn't gotten to them what they wanted or what the speaker wanted from the conversation. It's difficult. It's something that you need to just learn to sit there and then when they finish, give yourself a chance to take in what it is that was said and how does it apply to you. What can I take from this to make my life better, my profession better, my relationship with my significant other, with my children, with my parents, whatever it might be? How do I apply this to my life? And then that's a really personal conversation.
It's really funny as you say this because it's fun being on this platform talking about listening right now, right? Because it's like I'm like, ooh, how does that change how I show up as a host? All these different things, and even just the fact that I consider myself a host rather than a participant or something like that. Rob, as like something that's flowing through me is when you were talking about the shoes and the idea here. I was thinking about the listening component of it from a standpoint of like looking to respond. And when I thought about the respond, I'm like, oh, that's because I'm here to perform, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm a host, I should be performing, like, or I'm in a meeting and I should let like my clients are coming to me. I should have the answer. I should be ready to go. I should look
Mhm.
sharp, right? And it took me back to what you said earlier when you were introducing your game. You were talking about the sneakers that have been built out there were built for people to like absorb and then put back out, you know?
Mhm.
And I heard that as like the listen and respond, versus versus what you're bringing in right now, where it's like, can you just stand? Can you stay with it? Can you dissipate? Can you just listen and have it enter into you and go out from there? I'm like, Rob, I feel like you're very consistent in who you are and what you build. When I put it into this context, what flows for you on that?
That's a really cool parallel I haven't heard put that way. That's awesome. I think in that, and I think this is a good lesson for anybody listening to this, and there's a really kind of simple frame up for it. And it's when you're asking questions as well, to truly listen, what you need to do is ask a question in a non-steering way. So a steering way creates this dynamic of listening to respond or asking because you mentioned, does the speaker getting what the response that they want? Well, a steering question is, if I could solve this thing for you, would you be interested? The answer is obviously yes, but you don't know if that's a problem that they need to be solved in the first place. And so, in standing there, and this is a difficult thing to do, especially for a founder or an entrepreneur that wants to build something, it's very difficult to not lead people to the answer that you want to hear. Because if you do that at the foundation of the business, you might be spending a whole, and listen, it's hard to build a business, even a great one. And you might be building something that isn't really there. And so, the best way to do this when you're listening and when you're standing is asked in a non-steering way. And an example of that, how I even figured out that people are in pain when they're on their feet, aside from living it myself, I said, talk me through your day. What is the worst part about it? I didn't say anything about shoes. I didn't go into it. I didn't say what I saw. It's just, what is the worst part about your day? What are the best parts about your day? But in that worst part, what solutions exist? What have you found? To what degree is that successful or not? And in doing that, because I didn't know I was even going to do shoes, I had a background in that, but I just wanted to help this nursing population. It may have taken a completely different form, and I would have spent a lot of time figuring that out. But by just really being grounded, even in the questions that you ask and being open to that. And again, it can be difficult because you're going, I want them to talk about the subject because I think I'm going to build in the subject. If you can really just take a minute, listen, people will tell you what their problems are. It's the classic, someone goes in to buy a car, the salesperson who jumps out, let me tell you all the features and the models and the functions. Maybe they just want a cup holder that can fit that oversized Stanley Cup, and that's really all that they're looking for. But you miss that entirely if you lead them a certain way, if you try to inject your bias around it. And so, really just taking a step back and listening has given me the opportunity to solve a real problem. And a lot of the friction points that persisted when I was building other companies that were not my own, we don't have those because I'm not convincing that people they have the problem. I don't have to spend as much time and finances and energy to build a market that wasn't there and convince them of a pain that's not really a pain. And so if you can do the hard part early on, and allow them to paint that picture for you, all the stuff that is still very hard to do becomes a lot less hard because you're not pushing a boulder up the hill from jump. You're already at the top of the mountain, and now you start to build that momentum and things start to roll as you're solving a real pain point and problem that you did not manufacture, it presented itself.
I'm Rob, there's two things that are happening as you're talking right now. One of them is that you're reminding me of the way I used to play the game. The way I used to ask questions, and I think there's a I don't think it was by accident that I used the word host earlier because I realized like for me like that's like I'm there's a part of me that's doing that, right? In the questions that you had, the openness of those here, it took me back to when I was working in tech and community culture and working as a consultant, and it's just like as well as like my foundational coaching days, which is just like let's just let's put the question in here without agenda and see what comes in, and then we will grow from that. I will honestly also let you know that I'm listening not just with my ears, but also my body, and I could tell that you're onto something with me because there was something that happened like inside of my chest. So I was like, oh, there's some truth here, and I haven't been living in that truth for a while. So I have to make sure I'm bringing that and calling that into the space here. And you'll see, like as we talk, I'm going to try and try and put myself in that space of basically being on my edge and seeing like, okay, with what Rob said, like, what would it look like for me to change the way that I ask my questions here? I'm not going to get it right off the bat, but like I like seeing how that might play out. Um, this one might be a leading question, but I am really curious about this. Right? Um, y'all have lived. You had a big journey in your life, and I'm curious about like the things that you've taken on. Actually, I'm more interested in what you're doing right now than what you've done in the past. I think the past is pretty safe because we've already lived there. The future is where I think that's where the edge is, and for any outlier that's listening, that's where they feel they're at, right? So, what's something that you're taking on right now that that really excites you, but like requires you to like transform, to up level, to have to like get out of your comfort zone and be courageous right now? Like, would you mind sharing with outliers like some of that that's taking place with you right here, Nuri? Like, I would love to hear if we can share anything, and then we'll go to Rob on this one.
Uh, Change is a constant in the path that Rob has chosen, and that I have chosen, and that Nima, that you've chosen, and that probably a lot of your audience has done as well.
Mm,
Finding your place, finding your passion, finding the things that get you up in the morning, right? If you're doing something, and this is just a cliche, but if you're doing something where when you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh darn it, I got to have a cup of coffee, then I got to get the kids to school, then I got to go to work, and then make dinner tonight. If that's your energy, then the results are going to be a reflection of this energy. If your energy is jump out of bed, make a cup of coffee, make the kids a good breakfast, get them to school, hit the gym before you go to work, that's a whole different level of energy. and
yeah.
and all of that fits. There's a few things that
Nuri, I'm sorry. I am going to interrupt right now because there's a thing that's coming to my mind that I just can't let go. And so I want to make sure I say it right. So you said I'm going to share something, and it's going to be a bit cliche. And as you said that, I'm like, all right, let me hear what the cliche is. But then I really got like, you're someone who's lived like you have a storied like life. Like I got curious about like what's the non-cliche thing? What's the thing that like Nuri has experienced or like sees about life that almost no one else would believe or like would see it that way, but it's actually been like the key to like most of the things for you. Like what would that be?
okay, well, you just opened Pandora's box.
Oh yes, finally. That's what I've been looking for the key. I'm like, how do we get there? Is it this question? Is it here? Go ahead, Nuri. Hit us with it.
So this goes back nearly 14 years. In December of 2012, I was awakened by 30 FBI agents raiding my home with nickel-plated weapons. I didn't have an unpaid parking ticket. Um, I was involved in a situation. I could have handled it better. Uh, and I take responsibility and pled guilty for the things that they were accused of. It's a whole different and much more gory but I spent 16 months and 10 days in a federal prison camp in Lompoc, California. Lompoc is how they pronounce it there. I spent the time, I read 435 books. I read Outliers. I read Grit. I read The Lean Startup. I read everything you can think of, every John Grisham and Dan Brown and every other book that they had. I read a tremendous amount. Um, Here's what I learned. I was in prison with people that had killed people. I was in prison with people that one used to be the CEO of one of the largest mortgage companies in the country. His restitution was in the billions. Um, but that doesn't have anything to do with the fact that a lot of them were really good people. So what I learned from that experience was to be accepting. I shared a table every night playing poker with Southern California gang members, Southsiders, great guys, Norteños, Northern California gang members, same thing, great guys. You would never have any idea of their past or anything else, and it doesn't matter because we're all in the same place at the same time. But that and Crips and Bloods and Latin Kings and everybody else you can think of, I didn't even know most of these things. I grew up in a bubble in Northern California. Yet I learned things very, very quickly. And, you know, the thing that most people don't realize if you've spent any time in incarceration is that if you have integrity, if you're honest, if you are transparent with the people you deal with, right? You pay your debts. If you borrow a can of soda from somebody because your commissary day isn't for 2 more days and you're out, repay it. People don't ask, but they remember, right? Have high integrity. And that starts in a place where I shared a building, a bedroom, basically with 165 men for 16 months. And there are times where it sucked. I tell people I spent 16 months hungry. I didn't eat the prison food once. I only ate what I could buy from the commissary. But like I said, I have friends who, when I left there in 2017, that I talk to every week now, a decade later, almost. So background, who they are, whatever it is, frankly, it doesn't matter. Can you trust them? Do they have integrity? Do they have your back? Are they loyal? Those are the things that matter. A lot of us make judgments on people because they drive the right car, they wear the right clothes, they wear the right watch. Nah, that's not it. And that's something that people don't learn until it's way too late. You know, it's funny. The three of us are sitting here, and I've done probably 100 podcasts like this. And the funny thing about it is, usually, and Rob, it would usually be the guy in your place who's got the polo shirt on, and it's got some fancy brand. But the three of us are not wearing that. And I'm not a brand person. I shop at Banana Republic. I'm a really easygoing and simple guy, right? But most people are not like that. Most people have the Gucci or the Louis Vuitton or whatever. And those things, frankly, shouldn't matter. But to a lot of people, they do. By the way, I told that, so I went to a event. It was a founder dinner, 10 founders put together, and they do this in San Francisco every other week. And I told this story. And the best part about it was there was 5 or 6 people at the table, and I swear to God, their jaw was on the table when I finished telling them the story that I just told you. And in all candor, Emma, and Rob, I'm not embarrassed by what I went through. I made a choice. I could have continued to fight, but it was destroying my son. It was destroying my mother, who didn't leave her home for months. It was destroying the woman that I loved at the time. We're not together anymore. And there are times in life where you have to make decisions that are not in your best interest. They're in the best interest of the people you love, just like a parent.
You know, as I hear this here, I notice a couple of things. One, when you stepped in, like I actually really felt you, Nuri. Like I'm like, oh, now Nuri's arrived in the conversation, you know. And so, and the reason for that is I'm like, this is your experience. Like this is your outlierness right here. Like it's one of the lenses. Like as much as you're a founder and you've created and you've exited and you've done all these things, like I think it's one of the lenses that I think I'm like really getting to see you through. And now when I hear you talk about brand, I'm getting goosebumps as I talk, by the way. Like this is because I'm just really letting it wash through. Um, but now when I hear you talk about brand, part of what I get about you, Neri, is that you're like, look, like don't judge by the cover, don't judge by the brand, don't judge, like understand who the person is and how they are showing up and what their character is showing up as, right? And like there's a component of me that really gets that, like you don't, you're looking for things and you choose you're looking for things, you're looking for interactions, you're looking for people that go beneath the surface of it all and say like this is how you actually show up, not just like what you like, not just what you've done or like or how you present yourself out to the world. because we didn't if we didn't open up Pandora's box, people would be like, "Oh, cool." Like, don't know. And yet you still chose to proactively like share this and be like, "Hey, y'all, this is part of my outlier story." I really wanted to say like that hits me because I'm like, this is part of what makes Nuri different than others, not because of the story, but the way that you see your world and the lens that you have through this experience. Like that, I feel really colors and shapes things in here. Uh, Let me just check in here real quick here. I'd like to open it to you, Nuri. Rob, is there anything that you want to say in here, and just just even a reflection you have for Nuri on it, or anything that's come up for you? Just give some space to it.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing. And something that resonates with me as well. So when I first tried to raise money, I did it all wrong. And how I did it wrong was thinking I needed to be polished, have every corner, covered, have all the answers. And without them providing the feedback, I was getting no's. And it wasn't because it wasn't capable, it wasn't because it was a good idea, but it was because what I was presenting, they knew from experience not to be true. And what is not true is nobody has all the answers.
Mm,
And as soon as I took a more humble approach to it, instead of saying, look at the past, look at the track record, I've done all these things, instead of just saying, listen, honestly, I think I'm a smart guy. I've done some stuff I'm really proud of, but I'm going to need a lot of help. And I'm calling you not just for capital, but I looked at your background and I see you can probably provide a lot of value in this business, if not for anything, just a sounding board, because I don't have it figured out. I know what I want to do. I know where the problem exists, and how we get there is not a clear path, but we will find that path. I'm confident, capable, we'll be able to do that, but I'd love to welcome help along the way. And so the kind of what I got from that is, especially, judging a book by its cover, I think that if you're honest with people around you, that's something that you mentioned a couple of times. If you're honest with the people around you, you're going to find champions that want to help you out.
mm,
You're going to find people and the right people, because teams, companies, businesses, it's a combination of people around you. I've got a very lean team. I have one employee, but we've got a lot of champions, a lot of advisors, investors, family members, community members, customers, and they help us along the way. And the reason why is because we're open and honest. I'm on Reddit forums as the founder. I said, what did we get wrong? What can we do better? I've called all of our one-star reviews in early days when the product was not where it is today. And by welcoming that in and saying, we didn't get it right, we made some mistakes, some things are not correct, but we're here and willing to try. And that here and willing to try goes such a long way in inviting people in, wanting them to root for you. And honestly, too, I hate the word expert. I don't believe there are any. I think it's a term that looks in the past, not the future. I think it's oftentimes misplaced as a marker of future success. But as soon as you label that, to me, what I hear is you found a certain set of conditions in a playbook that worked at that certain moment in time. But the world is changing so fast. And if you try to do that same thing that was done a day ago, a year ago, a decade ago, maybe some elements, but if you do it in exactly the same way, you show up to the Super Bowl with the same playbook that you did the year before, they've got your number. You're not going to make it very far, and you need to have that willingness to adapt. And so really what it comes down to is you don't need to present this polished version, because that's just not the world, that's just not the reality. And as soon as you do, people say you're not open to help, you're not open to change, you're not open to growth. And so what Nuri did, taking that stance of this is who I am, I'm embracing it and I'm moving forward, I think honestly is going to be a wonderful tool for you. And by not pushing that down and putting it at the forefront and saying, and these are all the things that I'm building, what I've learned from it, is going to make you 10 times more successful.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
yeah. Like y'all, this is we're coming up on our time here, so I didn't think we are going to be ending in this way here, but I actually think it's quite a it feels really appropriate. Um, I'm going to keep following my intuition. There's a part of me that's like, Neri, I want to give you the floor for anything that you want to say out here right now. What we'll do is like we'll leave it kind of like an open session here. Sometimes people put in like what I call an outside. An outside is like something you want outliers to walk away from with this. Other times we'll just like share some reflections. But I want to go to you, Nuri, to I would like to give you the floor and share anything you want to share, and then we'll wrap up with like 2 quick questions and we're done for today.
Sure. So, Rob, you mentioned having all the answers and all of that and polished and all those things. So I talked about my advisor in college before, and I walked in, a kid from California who surfed almost every day of his life when I was in high school. I walked into a class at University of Missouri in August of 1980 wearing puka shell necklace and hair down to here and OP shorts and flip flops, or sorry, lightning bolt flip flops. And I use the word cliche, but I mean, the only thing the cliche I wasn't was blonde. But he said something that was really impactful to me 18 years. And so I'm 64, so this is 40 something years later. Perfection, polished, words like that, they only exist in one place, and that's the dictionary. In real life, they don't exist. So as much as we want to be slick and all those things, be you, right? I don't remember who it was, but I think it's Dr. Seuss. Be you, because there's only one you. And if you're not going to be yourself, who are you going to be? You going to be Batman? Right? So be you. And if people don't like you, that's okay. And if people do like you, that's okay too. Be true to yourself. And I got to tell you, for years, I couldn't talk about this. I could not talk about it. It was humiliating. I can't even tell you. And it took me years to build up the courage. And then finally, I pulled the trigger. And it was the best thing I ever did. Sometimes your past, what haunts you, is what gives you your freedom.
Thank you, Nuri. I almost ready to respond. And I was like, nope, we're gonna listen, we're gonna learn on this one. We're gonna listen, we're gonna learn.
I obviously
Uh,
have a lot to say.
no, this is great. I'm really grateful for both of you. Let's wrap up the conversation this way. What I'll do is this: if you can each share 2 things. One, how people can go deeper down the journey with you, right? Like we're beginning our relationships together. So how can outliers go deeper down the journey with you? And what I also like to wrap up every conversation with is what I'll call like your insight. Like like anytime I bring people together, it's to have the possibility of a life changing conversation. We can have a conversation, but like it's better if we just left the room for life changing to come in. And so, if you wouldn't mind, share with us an insight that you are leaving this conversation with, a takeaway that you have. And if nothing came up, don't feel like you need to make something up around it. But like, if you can share how Outliers can go deeper down the journey with you and an insight you have from this conversation, that would be absolutely perfect. We'll do that in like the next minute here, and then we'll wrap for today. All right, Rob, why don't we start with you, and then we'll go to Neri.
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, just first name, last name. There's a word, and I need to know what it is, and know the definition of it. And it's this concept that everybody's walking around in their own version of a world, and they're vastly different. You're on the freeway with people going next to each other. My world and my experience, my past, my future, my present is vastly different than somebody traveling right next to me. And what was really cool about this is the first time I've done one with a founder that I have not previously met. And I think this was a wonderful format, but it was just this reminder that you can get so wrapped up into your world and know all the things around it, but there's somebody living a totally different life than yourself. And if just for a minute you can break that wall of the bubble and come together, gosh, there's a whole world and wealth of knowledge and stories and opportunities if you can just go a little bit outside that comfort zone. So thank you for orchestrating this. Nuri, thank you for sharing as well. It was cool to get to live in that. Just reminded my passion for that word. I need to figure out what that is now, to just poke into another bubble and check in and just really get to appreciate just how vastly different the world really is and how similar we are at the same time.
Mm, Thank you, Rob. Appreciate you. And then Neri.
Be open to change. Be open to the unexpected and the opportunities that those things bring. I said before we started, I don't think I said it during this, but you're going to learn things in your journey that are at times going to frustrate you, at times are going to open your eyes, but then there's going to come the day where you realize you're on the wrong path, and that's when you need to stop. The time that you come to that realization, stop and reassess. Um, Lastly, take care of yourself. This is not a founder is a lonely, lonely job. And when someone offers to help, take it. Even if you don't use it, take it. Learn from them, especially if they're older than you and have done this before. I'm with nothing. I advise young founders. I'm doing one right now with probably one of the He's a 23-year-old kid, just graduated. He immigrated here to go to college from China. Probably one of the sharpest kids I've ever met. His name is Tiger. That's not his real name, but he goes by
Yeah.
Tiger. Hi, Tiger. And he's brilliant. And he's working on something that literally could change the world. And I love people like that. And
I love it.
we met him at a meetup in San Francisco in the back of a beer garden, someplace in San Francisco. And we just started talking. And now we talk every week. So what I'm saying is listen, listen to what people have to say. And when someone offers you advice, you don't have to take it.
Mhm. Nuri, I appreciate you here. Robbie, like, let me do two things. I want to make sure, firstly, Nuri, if someone wants to go deeper down the journey with you, how do they do that?
I'm on LinkedIn as well. You can see my spelling there, or a direct email is it's nuri.otus@gmail. And
Perfect,
you
perfect.
can drop me a line. I'm happy to try to help. No promises, no commitments. In all candor, my mother's on hospice care right now,
Mm.
and so I'm quite tied up with that. But I'd like to do one other thing. I decided to do something and take advantage of this. So I told you that earlier that we've pivoted, and I spent the last 2 years building something that frankly is really interesting, but all the changes in chat and Claude and other things are going to make the direction we were taking go away. A
Mhm.
year, 3 years, I don't know. So now we've built something else. We've built AI matchmaking.
Cool.
It's not Tinder. It's not Bumble. It's not any of those things. You start off, and so it's the website is called company's called Duo. It's tryduo.net. If you want to
Nice.
sign up, if you're single and you want to sign up, please do. But this is the first time the world is finding out about this outside of the 4 people that have been working on it for the last number of months.
Well, thank you for that there, Nuri. Like, that is
Shameless plug.
no, this is it. We have like I want you to be in this space. I want you to own. I like we have to like pop out of our bubbles in that sense here and share. So thank you very much, Neri. Rob, you figured out what the word was. You want to share it with us before we wrap?
It's called Sonder.
All right. Well, I'm deeply appreciative of you. Thank you all for staying on a few minutes past here. Thank you for being real with who you are and sharing your experiences and actually creating those experiences. I'm looking forward to what you all create out as it goes out into the future. And Outliers, until the next time we all talk, be you on purpose.